Session number 3. It's already 7 o'clock. We already had this executive session, and now we'll start on Recreation Department on the budget review, number 3. Are we ready for that?
Everybody back here yet?
Everybody back, right? Who missing?
Carol? Everybody's here, lawyer.
Everybody's here?
Okay, just,
Okay.
Lawyer's
this person have a copy.
No.
There's a agenda. Got the agenda. Well, for her, let's see. Mayor and council, we've got the recreational.
So where's the budget things?
You didn't get one?
No, I don't have one.
It was awful.
There you go. Well, you got some over there.
Oh, did you hold
She
them?
didn't pass
I
them.
didn't pass them. You just, you know, listen, I'm sorry, yo. I'm sorry. I'm excited, you know?
Control yourself.
You just gave me somebody who done it. I ain't paying no attention. Pass the person. I'm sorry, yo.
I was going to say, in relation to recreation, the hospitality tax collections, which I'll hand out eventually, have gone up about 11% from one year to the next. Last year we collected about $306,000. This year it's going to be $345,000.
Your hospitality tax.
No, it's up.
It's up.
306 to 345.
Yeah, so we are especially having good response from the bypass restaurants. The new Taco Bell has done very well. So has the new Little Caesars. And the barbecue place on the square has just gone crazy. So you put all that in, we've had 3 out of the last 4 months, and we've collected more than $30,000.
Wow.
This last 6 months has been anywhere between 26 and 31,000. So you prorate that and take it into a year, it's close to $350,000. When we started collecting in 2009, we were around $240,000 a year. So we've increased in 8 or 9 years now from 240 up to 345.
All right.
So again, it shows you the growth that we've had. About 70% of our retail volume comes from the bypass. So I just wanted you to know that. So it gives us some more possibilities to work with that fund. Now, Mr. Andrews is going to go over his line item budget for you for parks and recreation, and then the registration.
All right, if you'll take a look, Howard actually and went through this, and this is it's self-explanatory right there. We want you to take a close look at the 220.01 through 220.02. That's our power bills. You can see we're over.
Look at column number 2. That's for this year.
That's for this year, 2017-18 estimated expenditures, and that's the actual. That's where we're at right now. We're at $20,205 in just Baldwin Gym. A lot of that has to do with heat and air, roof, and lighting fixtures. We haven't been able to change everything out in that building yet. So
Explain to them about the savings that you see because of the roof improvements.
I can tell you this: when was it 95 degrees this past week? That one day that it was so hot that they hadn't even changed the entire roof yet. But I actually heard the air conditioning turn off.
Wow.
For the first time.
For the first time.
Just because what they put on that roof is insulated. And it normally, if it's 95 degrees outside, it's 100 degrees in that gym. It was actually between 75 and 80. So you're looking at a cost difference that now we were expecting. It took them so long to get moving on that stuff. With the LED lights that we're now going to have throughout both buildings, you'll see a cost differential in that. Baseball, softball on Spring Street's over. I know we don't like dealing in deficits, but that's from use. That's from that facility being used. And it's being used year round. So it's not, now we put locks on the lights. We did. Majority of that is cost from lights. But for 2 or 3 months out of the year, those lights were locked. So they're not being used in November, December, January. So those are not open, but once baseball practice starts in February, it's open until. And we're one of the few places around here that allows people to actually go out and practice at night if they choose to. And that's just a convenience thing for our people. They can go out there and use the facility until we decide that that's not the way we want to go. The other one is Stanley Gym, same thing as Baldwin Gym. We've noticed a significant difference in the heat and air in there since the roof has been replaced, and now we will be able to go in and put LEDs in the whole building now. Since it's not leaking anymore, because it was leaking harder in some rooms than when it was raining outside.
And those roofing projects are about 75% complete. We got a bill today for about $270,000 out of the $370,000 which we owe on those roofs. And there's punch list items for both Man Stanley Gym and for Harmon Baldwin that'll have to be done before we pay out the rest of that money.
Just know too, if you'll turn the page over to building repairs and facility repairs, we actually went down in that some this year.
What line on that is?
228,
229.
228, 229.
We went down in those this year just because we did so much this past year. Now we did have to spend a little bit more money at Blue Street than we wanted to just to get the bathroom facility out there up to where it needed to be for people to just go use the bathroom.
Tell them about concessions too.
Concessions, this is something that we started with football. We haven't had a full service concession stand until now. But in football season, we would do $200 a night, $300 a night concessions. Basketball, we do about the same because we didn't do the fryers. We didn't do all that. We were doing candy and hot dogs and stuff you could do in crock pots. But now we have a full service concession. We're making anywhere between $750 and $900 a night.
All right now.
And we plugged that in as a revenue item of about $25,000.
So
And
it's
we
going to help offset that.
we put it in here to offset the higher electricity costs.
For this year. But it has, me and Howard were talking about it because we've had to hire people. Our department has grown. We don't have a lot of full-time staff, but we have part-time staff that work in that ball field just to help maintain it so it's not, when you come in the next morning, there's trash blowing all over the place. And we've got 6 or 7 people working in the concession stand every night, and they're paid by the city. And just to give you me and Brantley went yesterday to Sam's to buy candy. We spent $450 at Sam's yesterday, and I think he deposited this morning around 8. So, and all our food, all the cooked food that we're buying is coming from Darlington Pike. So we're using local. So everybody's benefiting from that. We went down, like I said, athletic equipment was up this year just because we've had to buy a bunch of stuff for baseball. We didn't get everything back. We ended up spending, we had 35 teams, so you figure that's 35 cents for catcher's equipment. That's baseballs, that's some helmets. Of course, we did good stockpiling some stuff. We had some brand new helmets that hadn't been used that we were able to use for the league. But budget-wise, I know we went over this year.
Are you accountable for that equipment as far as what you get out?
Absolutely, the coaches signed it out. We know where it is, and we'll get it back.
I think I asked this last year, but what is 262? For inland marine, what's that?
That's the part, the
That's
insurance
for,
policy for Williamson Park.
Yeah. You see, it's an insurance policy for Williamson Park,
For the boardwalk.
but it's the boardwalks and stuff, inland marine.
So if a tree
If you
falls
over a
and
tree,
damages the
something like
boardwalk, that insurance policy,
So this is how much the insurance policy is? It's $2,000?
yes ma'am.
My gosh.
that. We had some boardwalks broken this past year from trees, so we've had to file.
I'll file it.
You have a deductible?
What is it?
Almost $1,000. And we also have a sewer line running through there too. So I've been here 13 years. We've had 2 sewer issues in the park. So that covers that also. It was a major sewer spill.
And then the other operating expenses, you'll see some stuff on here that we kind of use as the hardware, building materials, small tools. All that stuff is our day-to-day operations. That's what we use. And just to be honest, for it to be band-aided so long that it was band-aided, that there was a band-aid put on that problem, there was a band-aid put on that problem. We've had to buy some stuff lately just to get through what we've been doing. A lot of that small tools, just getting a socket set or something along those lines.
Now, that summer food program that Ms. Thomas ran over at Stanley Gym in the summer, is that, the city don't have anything to do with that?
All we do is supply her a place to use. All
We're
that
trying to
stuff,
change it this year.
all that is funded by somebody else. She just comes in and
She just used the facility.
uses it. Yeah, I talked to Miss Reed about that already. She's trying to start a,
One on this side.
Summer food
Where?
program on your side.
Yeah. Well, I got to connect, I just needed a place and I was trying to negotiate with the church that's, down from our city offices. You know, the one that got
Oh,
the
it was
bids for
usually-
sale.
right.
West Grove Street?
Yeah. I want to see if I can use their building. I
Why
mean,
don't you
their
use- Why don't you
library,
use the front of
front of ours.
street department? I don't know.
I didn't want to, because that's every
Yeah,
day.
that would not work
you know.
every day, no. I thought you were talking about Saturdays or something.
We
No,
were
no.
having the breakfast before the
Yeah,
department.
exactly. If I'm trying to contact them, see if we can use that, and that would make it better because Mayo has hot food every day. They also have it, so that would eliminate. It help the ones from this side not having to go, you know, either to Stanley or.
Brockton won't do it for you?
Well, that's still crossing the bypass. I'm trying to get them, you know, so they won't have to travel like
How about the
that.
Pine Center?
Yeah, their Pinson is good. I had thought about that way because see, they don't have to try. But I was just trying to keep it
Well, that's
something
right for
in the
me.
yeah, just keep something in the vicinity because we haven't had one. You know, we just trying
Sorry.
to walk right there. They can walk right there.
Right next to the mail.
Yep, right there for me.
Yeah. No,
All right, if you'll
Okay, go ahead.
turn the page over, that's still part of the 700 series right there with the building and fixed equipment. That's the capital outlay. We didn't change nothing on that page. You can see the totals right there. What we're looking to spend out is $394,745, and what's budgeted for next year is $374,792. You add concessions into that, and that's gonna bring us about back even. So,
We budgeted $25,000 for concessions for the rest of this budget year. Excuse me, I'm eating, so.
yeah.
all right, if we turn on over to 725 account, which is mainly Williamson Park Fund, Williamson Park's account. They do a good job with their stuff. We didn't change anything in that.
For those who are new, Williamson Park has its own bank account, which they've raised money for, and they pay for out of that funding. Traditionally, it's been anywhere between $20,000 and $40,000 in that account. The city keeps the bank account, Ms. Pridgeon, and Ms. Cheryl can write checks as requested by the Williamson Park Committee. They control that money, they put money in it, but since the city owns the property, it was done into the city in 1924, we're considered the fiduciary agent for that committee. But they are almost autonomous because they raise 70–80% of the money that they use and spend in that park.
And just to remind you or let you know, we've moved the movie in the park for the past 2 weeks. For the past 2 viewings, it will be Friday night. Weather permitting. We've been in a drought now, and now it's going to rain for the next 10 days. But we're going to try to show a movie in the park, down here to the clearing down there.
And we park.
We cleared all the snakes out, Mary.
I don't believe it. You
I
raising
believe
something. You
I
got
couldn't enjoy the movie without looking down at my feet.
And the 750 account is actually the operating expenses. That's just how much money we take in and
It's registration.
right.
Yeah.
Are you serious about showing the movie down there?
What time is
Absolutely.
it? What time
About
is it?
7:15. It'll get dark down there before it gets dark up down.
Ain't no question.
Folks, we've got other stuff local,
Come on, let's
so
go.
let's-
We're gonna park off of Spain Street in front of the park, and then we're going, my guys are gonna actually help park cars, we're gonna leave one
He's
side
got
of the park
planning
drive
for the
open and
different
park on the
properties.
left-hand side of the park drive. So there'll be a way in and out. That's all for 3. So we'll go into the developmental plan if you want, if you can already move on. If you don't have any questions about anything there? Alright, let's start with Virgil Wells first. Let's start with Virgil Wells. What I'm gonna give you is the concept for the park at Virgil Wells, which will be built on the, on the site of the baseball field now. This is just one concept, and it has the picture and the price on it. And this is for this park right here.
How many sheets is supposed to keep this time?
All 3.
All 3, okay, great.
Everybody got one?
You got one?
Yeah, Nate.
If
you don't, it's not a big deal.
copies. Let me see.
You can get this one out
You sure? Okay. Thank you, man.
Alright, and I'm gonna go ahead and hand out Hampton Street too.
Lee, are you gonna touch on Siscron?
Yeah.
I got an update on that just when you get to it.
Alright, I have,
Which one are we still?
we're talking about Virgil Wells first. I have, I've already talked to Mr. Roosevelt Scott about doing repair work to the wall at Virgil Wells Stadium. It did come in at $22,000, and that's to replace all block around that building, around that wall. So anywhere that there's chain link fence now, including the gates that we had put up, we're gonna make it all back one wall. So it come in at $22,000, and that was Mr. Roosevelt Scott. We're gonna go in. We've already talked with a guy who's gonna build us the poles, the stanchion to put the scoreboard on. We're gonna have that set up there so we can play football there this football season. We've been playing football at Virgil Wells this
Let
football
me ask you a
season.
question. The gate that Mel Luna put in, will you keep that like it is?
Yes.
So we have an open in and out gate?
We'll have in and out on that end. We're just what we're gonna do is wall it
Close
up
wall it up.
Yeah.
all the way around, just like it was.
Okay, very good.
Is that so you can charge admission? Wow.
Yeah, just when they have their alumni there, they have one way in and then they have one way out. So it's just easier to keep the traffic flow going that way.
You talked about the
It wasn't just one way. Before it was one gate. That was if you had a lot of people there, they couldn't get in and out easy. So that's just one of the things there. Bathrooms, I am going to get a contractor to come out there. If we can save the building that they're in, instead of being, most of you's been out there to it, but it's a building that's about 40 feet long. And instead of the bathrooms being built where it was wide, it was built where they were long. And it is like a furnace in there in the summertime. So you can't keep them cool even with a fan. So we want to turn it to where it's not as deep, but a little bit shallow.
In those bathrooms, it's not handicap
It's not.
accessible at all.
And redo the concession stand to a full service concession stand there.
How about the walking track? Is there any chance?
We're gonna redo the walking track and hopefully incorporate outside part of the stadium into that across the street to where we have purchased the tennis courts and the baseball field. We're gonna do away with the baseball field. There's not gonna be a baseball field there. That's where we want to put this park that you have right here.
Playground?
Playground. Little playground with a picnic shelter, something that we can, you can have a birthday party at, or you can just go hang out at. Incorporate a walking track around that, back over to the other side of the football field where we own all the way down now to, what is the name of that? Gary Street.
Gary Street.
We own all the way to Geary Street. We want to put parking at the gym, but naturally we're going to have to phase that with the old Florence project too, since we've purchased that land. So we'll be able to bring in some crush and run or something along that to keep it, because I always get complaints when it rains over there. Somebody's gonna get stuck because they're gonna try to drive through that ditch. Well, I don't know. If you're in a Nissan Altima, you think you can go through a ditch, but they do. And
Let me ask you one question.
yes,
The
ma'am.
land we wanted to push, you never got any go on there?
No, man, we never could get clear titles
Clear
over there.
titles on
There was
none.
one piece of property that was a clear title, and then she up and said she didn't want to sell it.
That's for Ms. Backus, that's 5 pieces of property that we voted to purchase last year that are contiguous with Stanley Gym and the pool. But there were title problems on 4 of the 5.
I'm
But
still working on it a little bit, but anyway.
This is gonna be a synthetic
straight.
type
yes,
ground.
well, it'll be the playground mulch. It won't be rubberized or anything like that. But they now have a playground mulch that they say you have to use, but everything else will be rubberized. The landing areas and stuff will be that.
So that'll be, that area will be the playground and the tennis courts.
But that other, yes ma'am, yes ma'am. We're gonna redo the tennis courts, and I'm going to do tennis courts / pickleball courts.
Sound
There.
good?
And you saying there's gonna be an area for them to sit at?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have that concept on here because he didn't supply all that, and that's probably something we can get somebody to build
So
us
it'll be like a
a
cover shelter.
covered shelter. Bigger than what we have over here at Orange Street, but you know, not
it's
anything
nice.
real extravagant, just something that we can put some picnic tables on.
Which is great.
Yeah. And that cost right there, it comes in right at $45,000 just for that playground system. So it's actually 43 and some change. So
Do
that's
we have any more ideas of the concrete cost of the other parts of the projects?
Not yet. Not yet. Now I'll pass this around. We're gonna talk about that in a minute as far as the concept for Old Florence.
I'm
And
talking
every-
about specifically with the virgin
No,
wells.
no, and I don't. That's gonna be something that, you know, cost wise, we're gonna have to figure in, because if we do a concrete walking track, that's gonna be really expensive. We can do asphalt, that's a little bit less expensive, or we can just do a natural, kind of like what we're doing in the park now, where we take mulch and just, you can keep it, you can border it and keep it within there, and somebody's always grinding a tree up around town. And that's what we do. We get them to dump it at the rec department, and when they need it, we get street department to haul it to the park.
So
A whole lot of cost.
You know, they just go around
the
about.
one you said after concrete, what was that?
Asphalt,
Okay.
just regular old asphalt. It's a little bit
Okay.
cheaper than concrete, but it's still a little cheaper.
I don't know.
Oh, really?
Just
Yeah.
jump in.
I know, I just
I
want to
was
be
just-
rude.
It's all based on petroleum.
You'll learn.
Raising the hand for
I
special
stopped at the
use.
park in Ebenezer, I saw them running around on that. That, it's not
That's a
concrete.
rubberized, that's a little
Okay.
bit, yeah, and we can talk with him about, if you want to do it underneath, just at the playground area, we can get that cost too.
Yeah. I just stopped because I just saw, you know, the families just walking around and some kids.
Oh,
just running.
that park there is flat used, there's people from
Oh.
dogs that go over there, and then they come from the other side of Florence, they pass parks to go to that park.
They got just ground about 30 trees out there by Old Weinberg.
Yeah,
I passed there this morning. That thing was tall as this building.
Well,
They was
it-
grinding those trees.
Mr. Ben or Mr. Willie see it, they gonna ask for it, that's right, they gonna get it, put it in the park.
What's his name? Jeff Coleman's doing it.
Yeah.
He can probably get it.
Okay. Oh, we can get it.
Oh, he can-
Not that they'll spread it.
I can go.
All right.
If they're not selling it to you farm or not you farm.
Okay.
Probably selling it, so no.
Either that or
Yeah.
paper mill over
Paper
the
mill.
farms.
All right, how about Hampton Street?
Hampton Street, this is the same, you've already had this is the same, price for that, but I'm just giving you this stuff, so you'll have something concrete in your hands. This is for the dog park, 2 dog parks, the little dog park and the big dog park, and the playground system for there. And it's got everything from fitness equipment all the way to toddler to big kid play on playground equipment. So you're looking right at $193,000 for that, $194,000 for that.
We don't have enough stuff.
Which-
Yeah.
We're gonna try.
It's all outside.
Yes, everything's outdoor equipment, outdoor fitness equipment. And, you know, we get different ideas all the time. We can connect Andrew Street to Old Florence when we get to that. You know, this one right here sitting by me, I'm gonna use it as an example because he's a health nut now. He's running Spartan races, and that's something that's getting big time. I mean, it's outdoor and it's an obstacle course is what it is. And
It's
talk about, it's called a Spartan race. Spartan, like Sparta, like Jesus. Yeah. And they run, they jump walls, they climb under in mud, they do all kind of stuff. So I mean, there's exactly.
Crawling up under the
last 6 weeks.
I'm coming out there.
Last 6 weeks. So you know, when we start talking about trails and stuff, there's
so much this
there's
stuff.
so much we can put on that.
So there's gonna be places here for people to sit.
Yes,
and all
ma'am.
that?
Yes, ma'am. Benches, picnics. You know, we'll have benches around. I don't think we'll have enough room there for a picnic shelter. Just from looking at the concept, it's just a small strip of land. There's not a whole lot we can put there if we don't put parking and stuff there too. So,
So you got you got an intermediate park and an expert park.
that's the dog parks. And the concept on that is,
I bring my dog. They don't have that big.
but you have a weight limit. The reason we have two.
Pit bull,
The reason we have two, the reason
Oh, I
we have two,
understand. I'm just
yeah, I
teaching.
know, I'll just bring it everybody else. The reason you have two dog parks is
Yeah.
because you have a weight limit at one, so the small dogs can go over here and feel safe from the big
Cause
dogs.
that pit bull get my dog.
It's like the kiddie pool and the big pool.
That's
Yeah,
exactly
there you
right. And before we get to Forest Highway, I'll give you an update on the pool.
I can see, honey.
We hired Pool Works out of Florence to come in, and they're actually going to be our pool upkeep this year because I'm not certified in chemicals. I have nobody on staff that's certified in chemicals, but Randy Weatherford, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Randy Weatherford, he's from Darlington. He runs Pool Works down
Oh,
in
okay.
Florence.
Okay.
And the pool's actually, if you've been by there, it's clean.
Yeah.
And if it's been 2 weeks, it's clean. If we wanted to open it next week, I could push him and we could. The target date to open the pool is June, the first week in June. And the pool camp, swimming lessons, the free swimming lessons will be the week of June the 18th.
Oh, okay. And
So,
who do you have done?
Miss Colvin is heading that up, but Miss Lillian Brunson is actually
Oh, okay.
gonna be the one
Mr. Rupp, the
doing
same
the
one they have
lessons.
all the
Yes,
time.
ma'am.
Because I know
okay.
this Ronnie Ward's nephew or brother or somebody helps with that too. What's his name? But Ms. Cohen promotes it,
Yeah.
but he's the one that actually ran it before we got Lily involved in it last year.
Okay.
You remember his first name?
No, I just knew, I went there last year for the first time. That was interesting.
We've had calls, Florence Baptist Temple, they've closed the pool, they've closed their pool down in Florence. So they're looking to come 2 days a week. We've had a lot of interest in the pool already. So looking forward to that this summer.
I went a lot last year. There were random groups I heard would
Yeah.
come from
They
all
just
over,
come from
Hartsville,
everywhere.
Florence.
Let me- Let me mention from a liability standpoint too, that we, yeah. From a liability standpoint, we've had to cut back the overgrowth over the deepest part of the pool because that helped contribute to the drownings of his two young men in 2010. So we did cut that back some.
Oh, good.
There used to be a tree that would overhang there,
Yeah.
and it caused a shadow in the deepest part of the pool, and if it's a cloudy day, you couldn't really see. But just understand that that's been taken care of also.
Concept,
Okay.
just one.
So that property right there, like I said, I saw somebody out there trying to clean up. He wanted to get some stuff on it. That's the one we can't, that, oh, go ahead. I need to get one.
So what you're saying is it's got a whole lot more sun going into it?
Yes.
Which is good, it's cold year round.
It's something different, and this is saying.
Is
One's concept A, one's
A
concept
and
B.
B. A and B.
I thought,
Kevin, what you got for?
Kevin, what you got to say for
Hampton
Hampton Street?
What's this?
No, Sistrine. Hang on.
Same thing.
Okay, got it. Sistrine, Jennifer texted me earlier, and the problem is the railroad, which I think is not uncommon with railroads. They weren't very good at deeding over property, and Mr. Nikolai purchased it in 1991 from South Central Railroad. South Central Railroad got a quit claim deed in 87 from CSX. So we can trace it all the way back to 87. And I think I'm correct. I think the adverse possession is 40 years, I think, Judge.
No adverse, open and notorious.
Right, continuous hostile
Possession of
open
grant is
notorious.
20.
Right.
If you had brought it in 40 years, you would
Right.
have a lot.
So you've got about a 9-year window that somebody could potentially bring it. The chances of that happening are probably very small. But unless he can find the deed for that property, he cannot say anything before 87 that is the railroad's property. Jennifer's going to continue trying to find something. The problem again is that just the record keeping process was so outdated. So there is a chance that we will not have anything prior to 87, and I don't know if the council wants to take that risk.
But it went back to railroad property though, right? It was owned by a railroad before another railroad.
Right, exactly. Went from CSX to, can't remember the name of it.
South Carolina Central.
Yep, South Carolina Central, and then Mr. Nikolai bought it in 91. So, I mean, I'd be willing to bet my house that, there's not any problems, that there's no problems whatsoever. However, you are taking a risk that there will be some problem in the chain of title.
Do we know who bought it, who sold it in 87 to that railroad?
CSX sold it to South Central.
South Carolina Central.
South Carolina
South
Central.
Carolina.
So CSX in 87 sold it to South Carolina Central. 87 and 91, they owned it. 91, Mr. Nikolai owns it.
87 back though.
Okay, so Mr.
CSX
Nikolai
doesn't
did
know
it.
whether
Wait a minute,
or not
hold
it
on,
did
hold
own
on.
it.
From the records we have, and we've tried to reach out to them, but that's been next to impossible, but there's no records of
Prior to
CSX
87.
ownership during that period of time. Before 87. 87 up to present, we're fine, we can account for that. Before that, we cannot. And again, I'd bet everything that is fine. However, you cannot 100% guarantee that problem. She's going to continue trying to find it, but that's like a needle in a haystack trying to find those deeds for those kind of transfers of property. And my advice at this point is let's at least give her some more time. I trust Jennifer, and I think you've dealt with the judge. I mean, she's extremely good at what she does. So, but we may come up that we don't have any information from 87 on back, and that we're taking somewhat of a risk. I think it's very small, but there is somewhat of a risk that somebody pops up and says this is our property. I don't think it would happen, but that would be up to the council to make that decision. But again, let's at least give her to the next city council meeting to see if she can find anything else. She'll continue looking, and then I can tell you at that time if that's what we're facing. And I would be surprised if that's not the limit with which we're facing at that time. So.
I guess I was just a little, because I missed some part. Why are we going back when we know who the last owners were?
Well, because CSX, somebody can come up and say that they own the price. I mean, we don't have a clear chain of title. Again, it's a very small problem. It's a very small chance that somebody would come up and say this wasn't done correctly. But before that, somebody could say that it is our property. Again, it's called adverse possession. If somebody comes along within a 40-year time period and says it's my property, then
I'm saying the information you got that said it was sold in 91. That's the last sale
yes, ma'am.
to Mr. Nikolai.
87. Yes, ma'am.
So I mean, I'm still saying that information is not
From everything
valid.
that she's telling you, everything that from 87 on up to now, we have complete documentation.
You
So
do,
the
but so
problem-
that's why I'm asking, why are we going back? If everything is legal now,
You want to have a clear chain of title, no matter what.
but it's not clear?
So they,
Industry standard has you look at 40 years of uninterrupted ownership. And what we've got is we've got CSX selling it, but nothing showing title into CSX. So CSX just sold it. And so, was that selling the Brooklyn Bridge? CSX did it, but they cannot show us where they ever became the owners, at least as far as the records in the courthouse are concerned. And Jennifer's trying to reach out to see what they've got in their internal records.
Did they have a quit claim deed? Did they have? I mean, how did they transfer the property? We don't
so
know.
what he's saying, he's only tracking back 31 years.
That's
So you got 31 years. You have
I'm
to make
understanding
a
that, but you're not answering me. That means that Mr. Nikolai, what are you saying? That he
We don't
is
know
not-
how.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about.
Anybody can come up and say, hey, I own that land before he bought it. He shouldn't have been able to buy it.
But I mean-
There's not a clear title on it,
He
right?
has no right to sell it. They can come back and say he had no right to
Right.
sell it because it wasn't
What
his.
year it started?
They don't
No.
have 40 years straight.
But that ain't the case when you said CSS sold it. He sold it to South Central.
But they don't show any clear
They don't
title. They
have
actually owned it.
I got what you're saying, but a sale was able to be made.
But that doesn't mean that sale was necessarily done in compliance with the law, first of all. And second, we don't know where CSX got that property.
From. They're just saying they own it. The same thing what happened to Nitronics.
Right.
When we wanted to get the land after it was abandoned, we wanted to do something with it, right, John? But then when we find out there ain't no clear ownership of it, nobody want to take the ownership of it. So there's no ownership of it. So you know you have to wait.
I guess
But
it's
see,
the sale. I'm not even worried. I'm not even thinking about.
That's just like
if I'm able to spend money over here and you allow that, and that's considered legal. They sold it, and for what I'm seeing now, it's 3 people that sold it.
Well, yes,
And it don't really matter, but they using it. I mean, like if they want to
there's no
use
clear
it.
title on it.
So what difference does it make if?
You go see it,
You're making a lot of difference to somebody.
That's right.
I mean, I guess it would make a difference to the city,
The
but
history on it makes it doubtful that anybody would come along and dispute the city's ownership. But there is some small possibility because the records in the courthouse do not nail everything down.
okay.
So there's a small risk.
It's a very small risk, but there is a risk.
Next.
All right. Old Florence Highway, this is what we've been
So we
waiting
better
on.
nix that then.
No,
There's two
I
concepts.
mean,
we're gonna let it
Come back to that.
continue.
Let's go on.
There's 2 concepts here. Concept A includes 8 game fields, 8 210-foot game fields. Concept B has 6 game fields and 2 practice fields. All right.
You said A and a B?
Yes, ma'am. Did you get it?
I got it now. Okay.
Okay. This is something that we can decide on, and really and truly, this is the first concepts that he's come out with on this. We can. What I'd like to do is do 7 fields, do 7 game fields, 1 field being a high school regulation size field that we can play, that we can put a portable fence up on and play on for smaller guys, or we can leave it at high school, just because a lot of the baseball tournaments now use the regulation. You won't get any of the high school kids if you on this site. We'd have to use it somewhere else. So we would go 7 fields, which still gives us more than what we're using at Blue Street. Right now we're only using 6. All right, you have with you the budget estimate for what he has. One is with lights, one is without lights.
Well, we could transplant the lights from some of these other fields.
Well, there's some other additional costs in there. You can see the additional costs, yeah. With irrigation, picnic shelters, maintenance shed.
A lot of
and
extra
it's-
concrete.
Right. Now I have talked with another company that builds ball fields, and they can do 7 fields with no fencing for $500,000. That's what he told me today. Now, of course, fencing is going to bring it up, and that's still not lighting, but it's still cheaper than what we've got right here. And they do it every day, and that's with sod and not sprig. This right here is sprig Bermuda outfield with fencing and covered dugouts.
okay, now this budget is for
All right,
which concept?
All right. Both. The budget is for both concepts. Okay. One, if you take a look at the first one, which is $1.5 million.
Yeah.
All right, you see the additional costs and all that. None of that is figured into the cost. So all you're getting with the first budget, which would be the first phase, demolition, grading, stormwater, utilities, ball fields, parking, concrete sidewalks, concession and restroom building, walking trail, and a play area. That's for 1.285 million. And then you go down here to the soft cost, which is all the permits and anything that might come with it, is another $282,700, which brings us to 1.5. $1.567,700.
Why would you not want fencing around there?
Well, I would. Now, I'm all for concept A, not concept B. Now, this is the total cost with, if you add in ball field lighting, ball field irrigation, picnic shelters, and the maintenance shed area. You're going to add another $1.5 million. And I think it's going to be cheaper than that, I do, because we're going to share lights at this complex. It's not going to be like you're lighting each individual field. So that 4-field wheel right there and these two field areas right here, you can share lights. So the cost of that's going to come down some. Normally it's about $110,000 to light a field. Now you can do a wheeled field, I want to say, for about $250,000. That's a 200-foot field. So you're looking at, if we were doing 8 individual fields, you're looking at $1 million. But we're not doing 8 individual fields. We're doing that wheeled concept. So that's just a starting point. But that's something that we've got to jump on soon so we can get. We got to turn dirt. So I'm going to get back with Bert and talk with my other people that are out of Columbia, and I'll try to get those two together. So get them to talk together to get us a concrete price, so we can get something going before next council meeting.
We've also got to repave the tennis courts right here at the Bill Kane Tennis Center.
Talked to Jerry O'Neill today. He's getting me a price on that now. And that's redoing all 6 courts. And I'll get him to go ahead and go over and look at the Virgin Well courts.
School district pays for half.
Oh, they're going to give it ass, okay.
And the back 2 courts will be pickleball as well.
Yes. Yeah, so what I want to do is see about getting a softer color for the line on that so it don't stand out as much and it's not as confusing.
Yeah, they use blue over in Florence. I think they use it for youth, but I'm sure you can use it for children.
Yeah.
Your baseball field is going to be where these 2 fields are here?
Yes, that's where I want to put the thick field, where it is now basically, but we'll redo everything on that field.
It's great.
Are they playing any ball over at that field at going there?
We'll be playing adult softball here shortly.
Okay.
They play middle school ball over there, and then we play everything Little League wise at Blue Street, and then we're putting adult softball over there. They actually have their meeting tonight.
Yeah, that's so funny.
And there again, we got teams traveling from Hartsville because we've actually, and that's one of the good things. I don't understand why we've never done it as far as county-wide participation and stuff, but our adult softball leagues will go to Barley Park and play there, and those teams will come to Darlington and play over here also. So we're doing home and away with Barley Park.
It took you to get it straight there.
We have a
Take all the credit.
fire department take part.
Fire department has actually put 2 teams in it, so if y'all want some comic relief, come out and roll them out, get your schedule. They have a good time.
What night is it?
We play on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays.
Okay.
Not necessarily every night, but that's
Y'all still at Bowl Manor?
still a bowl
They
night.
playing next Monday night?
I'll get you a schedule.
Please
We
let
had.
me know.
No,
Get us a schedule.
we just started practice. They got their meeting tomorrow night, so they'll get out of there.
You got the rescue squad out there, right?
That's for the other team, not the firefighters.
They're all first responders.
They can save each other.
That's right. Y'all got any questions for me?
Good job.
Thank you.
So within the next 30 days, we will see something.
I hope we see some big things in the next 30 days.
Okay.
Me too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Before, this is the bid for Mr. Roosevelt Scott, like I said, on the blocks and stuff, and this is something we might have to take up. Do you want me to get 2 other bids on that, or do you want me to go ahead and use him, local guy?
Well, you know I'm gonna say,
We got
go
to,
ahead and use it.
but do we have to
Check
get?
it
I
out.
think legally you probably want to get
You
it.
have-
Legally, we gotta get to what it is. Okay, I just wanted to clear that before we, because I know Roosevelt will be asking me, he's already come by.
Yeah, it'll be by tomorrow morning.
Where is this?
This is for the, Virgil Wells football wall, for him to put the new blocks up. We're gonna do away with all chain link fence.
We'll have that at the June 5th meeting because we've got to do something because they got to play football there.
Yeah.
Yeah. if you don't-
And
Go ahead
fall.
and get that rolling.
Well, that's the football stuff, was it August? September?
Well, September, the weekend after Labor Day is when we kick off.
So we're gonna get prices on the restrooms and all that stuff.
Yes, sir.
ASAP.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Have a good evening.
Appreciate
Have
y'all.
a good evening.
All right,
And you're welcome to stay for the next show.
Next one.
No, I better go find my son, I think he's got track
You
right.
got 10 minutes.
Mine won't take long.
Okay. I'm
Got
just
5 minutes, that's it.
I just pulled 5.
Yeah, you give me 10.
You ain't got the 33 and 34. You good for that ain't 5 minutes.
Yes, sir.
You got the grand total over there and everything else.
Let me discuss real quick what Lee and Sheila have done from a revenue standpoint. Most money, sir?
Lee?
I'm sorry, that's Lee and Sheila. Alex and Sheila have done from a revenue standpoint. The best year we had before Alex came here was from collecting permits was $56,000. Well, the first full year he was here, I think it was $77,000. This year it's going to be well over $100,000. And he's very close to breaking even from a revenue standpoint with what they put in if you don't count demolitions. So the job that they've done, and they not only do their workload, but they help out so many other departments too. So kudos to the two of them. They make a really good team.
Now we understand you're here.
Lee and Sheila. Lee was how far along and how far back?
Okay, okay.
All right, if you look at the, I guess the personal services side of it, the budget for this year was 95,974. And if you look at it right now, or what we're expecting to spend this year on the salaries and stuff is 103,477. What that's going to include is, one of the reasons we had a little bit of overage is because of Perry Kelly with the Traco operator. We had to pull that out of the salaries even though we didn't have it in the budget. I guess it's being charged towards the demolition, but we're having to move
The
money
auditor
around.
says it has to be, you have to pay out of the salary line item. That's what it is.
But next year we're increasing it with I guess with a 1.5% salary increase. It would go to 103,864.
But that'll be offset by the revenue coming in from the demolition.
Yeah. The printing and office supplies this year was 700. We've spent 1,261. We do a lot of printing, a lot of color printing for council stuff, for our department, for other departments. But we're putting in the budget 750 for next year, so we should be good there. Postage, I actually thought we'd spent more than $604, but that's what Howard says we spent, because we sent out a lot of letters, especially since the last election, correct?
Exactly right. We're gonna send a lot more too.
We sent out a lot of letters, so anyway, we put $1,000 in there for postage. Membership dues is gonna stay at $100. Auto operating expense, I know y'all will probably fall through the floor on this one, we had $350 in there for that. We have spent, or we're actually projected to spend $5,300, and what that is the first year that I worked here, I drove my truck at my expense. I didn't charge anything, the city didn't pay for anything, I paid for it. Whenever they voted not to, in September, August or September, whenever they decided not to lease vehicles or buy vehicles, then at that point, we decided that I would start submitting a mileage report every week for mileage on my truck. So that's what I've been doing, and that's why we have the cost up to $5,300. We're projecting to spend $5,300. I believe it's $40-something hundred at this point in time. So I guess the decision needs to be made at some point in time whether I'm going to continue driving my truck and submit a mileage report, or if the city's going to buy a truck or lease a truck. I would say buying would probably be the best way to go on the state bid price, but that's going to be a decision that's going to have to be made.
Mr. Godwin, you got two down there, he can't use one of them to which side we could do?
One of the
What
what?
your truck, what SUVs you have?
I think he needs a pickup
Yeah,
truck.
pickup truck.
Yes, ma'am.
From
Because
time to time, I haul ladders and stuff like that.
that's just not
for
conducive to carrying some of that. of those
Okay, he
things.
doing what the other inspectors didn't do, because the rest of them didn't have a truck, did they?
Sandy Kendall had
Said
one.
he had a truck, yeah, but he had one, but then the ones after that didn't have a truck. They must didn't carry no ladders or nothing. No.
They didn't do near the
They had no small
job.
car.
They didn't do near the job. He's
They
doing
had
his.
no small car.
So, like I said, that's a decision that's gonna have to be made there. Like Howard said, and I'll go into it in a few minutes, the telephones, we're putting $300 in there for a telephone. Basically, I use my own cell phone instead of the city providing a cell phone, which is probably, I don't know what the city pays for a cell phone, but they pay me $25 a month, I think it is, to use my cell phone. And so anyway, that's $300 a year. Maintenance and service contracts, we put $800 in there for that.
That's for the copier that you have. That's for the.
The advertising, we put $1,000 in advertising. I don't know exactly how much
Well,
advertising.
I think part of that is you said you wanted to take over the BZA, Board of Zoning
Yeah, it'll
Appeals.
be-
So you would be advertising for that department. He's going to take that over from Lisa Rock. And-
That used to be in our department.
Yeah, but now
And
they can handle it. So they'll be taking that over. That's the reason they're increasing the advertising.
vehicle insurance, 605, employee training, 450. Special contracts, this is gonna be the demolition. We had 65 in there last year. We're projecting to spend 30. I think we're gonna probably spend more than that. At this point in time, we've taken down 3 or 4 houses that the city, I say the city's paid for. One of them was on the demolition assistance program. So she actually paid a percentage of that. The others, we've taken them down, but we're in the process. It took us some time because we had some boxes on the job site, and it took some time for us to get the boxes picked up and for them to get the billing to us as to how much that was going to cost. Now we've gotten all that together, so we're going to be sending out the bills to the people that we tore the houses down for. So we should be recouping some of that cost. But we just had 3 houses source sampled for asbestos last week. I should get those results in the next day or so. So we're going to be taking down probably, I'm guessing 6 to 8 more houses before the end of this budget year.
How about just give council an idea of the next 1 or 2 or 3 coming up so they know.
3 that were source attention was 204 Chalmers Street. 106 or 104 Second Street, the one right behind the funeral home, and 204 Southern Pine. That's the 3 that were source tested. Those 3 will come down. Then we're going to look at next 300 Medford Drive. We've got trying to think off the top of my head. 300 Medford. That's
204
one.
Chalmers, repeat it again, 204 Chalmers.
204 Chalmers
104
Street.
Second.
204 Southern Pine, and then 106 or 104 Second Street. That's the one that's not Second, B Avenue. I'm sorry, B Avenue. That's the one right behind Boatwright Funeral Home.
104 what now?
It's
Avenue
104, 106.
Yeah.
B Avenue. So those will be coming down. We're waiting on funds to take down, I think it's 107 C Avenue. It's the one directly behind. The lady owns both houses, 104B and then 107 or 106B and 107C. She owns both houses. She applied for the demolition assistance program, but she can only do it for one house. So she's going to do it for the 107C Avenue. So we're waiting on those funds to come in now.
What's the cost for this asbestos?
$1,200 a house.
We would tear the house down for $1,200 for that.
No, it was a little more than that.
We have spent, I believe we've spent on the 3 houses $4,500, I believe that's right, on the demolition.
It's 50.
So that's $1,500 a house roughly.
You're paying almost that cost just to get them tested.
We'll still be better off in the long run. Because if you would have sourced it out, then you would have still had to do the asbestos. You still had to do it. So anyway, so we're putting 55 in for demolition for next year, and then special department supplies we're putting 800 in there. Furniture and fixtures 1,000. Miscellaneous equipment's 2,000. Which comes to a total budget of $168,669. One thing that I would like to try to get, there was a couple of things when I took this job. One of them that I said that I was going to do, I would like to do. One was make the department self-sufficient. And like Howard said, right now, I think we're at about $97,000 worth of income for this year. That was the end of last week. We're projecting to be, by the end of this budget year, somewhere around $110,000. With the 17% increase that we've kind of seen from last year to this year, whatever, we're projecting to be at around $125,000 next year. So if you back your $55,000 of demolition out, then we're self-sufficient. We're holding on, which to me is a good thing, because the city's not, that's money before, like I told Howard today, if your budget before was $150,000, or if it was $130,000, and the department was only bringing in 30 or 35, you pull in $100,000 roughly out of a general funds account to pay the expenses in our department, but they're not having to do it now. So I feel like that's a plus. Another thing that I said that I wanted to do was try to go electronic with our paperwork. We've looked at several different programs. What I would like to do is to be able to, when I go to do an inspection, instead of having inspection reports and having to handwrite it and make copies and everything else, we want to do it where everything's on this iPad. Now, of course, the iPad belongs to me, but it would come up on the iPad. I could do my inspection right there when I send my send. I could send a copy to whoever I'm doing an inspection for, whether it's a homeowner or business or whatever. I could put an email address in there, automatically send it to them, and it would automatically go into the server, or, so Sheila could pull it up. Everything's real time. We've looked at several different programs. We've got a couple of demos coming in. The one that we seem to like the best at this point in time, and it can be used for several, it's called Unilogic, I guess is what it is. It's for municipal governments.
You want to hand that out?
Well, this is, how many copies she made? I don't think she made
UNI. Is it UNI? Unilogic?
MUNI, Uni.
Like municipal?
Yeah.
Okay.
We looked at, and when we looked at this software, we were looking at a software that the whole city could use if they wanted to, if they opted to. Right now, we're using Nicholson Business Systems along with everybody else. They do law track. They do the module for the the fire department. I believe they do payroll. They do it all. We've worked with Nicholson Business Systems, Mr. Don, trying to create a module that we could use to make it digital or to make it electronic, but it's just not working. So, like I said, we started doing some research and we found several of them. This one is, I believe, is a cloud-based system, but it can be used for permitting, licensing. It could be used for payroll. It can be used for everything. Every department could use it if they wanted to buy the module to be able to do it. The modules that we would use would cost us about $550 a month, which is what, $6,000 or so a year. But it would just make the paperwork part of it so much easier for us. And in the long term, it's like right now, we had a deal going on with Genesis Healthcare with the sign. There was supposedly a variance that was issued in 2003. We have no record of it. No, we can't find it. They can't find it. So we're kind of in a pickle right now with that. Whereas if you'd have had software like this that was everything was electronic, It goes to a server and you can pull it up. Now I will say that since Sheila and I have been in that department, we have taken old reports and stuff and we've scanned it in and put it into the system.
Okay.
So we do have record of stuff that we've worked on and stuff prior to us, but there's still a lot of voids there. There's still a lot of stuff that we can't account for. And we've tried to make it where, like I said, if somebody needed an inspection report from years past, our system goes back to 2013. So if there was a permit issue 2013 to now, we can pull it up in the system. It was middle of 2013 or something. But we have found some stuff prior to 2013. It was just papers where an inspection was done, and we scanned it in and put it in, a folder so that we can in a computer so that we'll have access to it. But there's a bunch of stuff that's missing. Whereas if you had an electronic, it would be there. And that's what we're trying to do, is make it as user-friendly and as easy as possible for, hopefully there's not going to be a next person, but if there is a next person, they can go back and they can see everything that we've done instead of being a guest in.
I know this is something, but what do we have for Genesis? What do we?
Let's don't get into that right now, please.
The reason that they're even dealing with
camera.
So at this point, that same software could be used for the water department.
It can be used for the water department. It can be used for sewer, stormwater. You could take, if the fire department wanted to get the module, and that's one of the things we're looking at, so that the fire department, whenever a fire department goes out and they do a fire marshal inspection, they can do it. I can see it. They can send it to me. Everything's in the server. Same thing with me when I do an inspection. They could go in there and do an overlay of the city, put all the fire hydrants in it, so you can pull it up and you can see where all the fire hydrants are at. You can put all your stormwater outfalls in it. You can put all your stormwater drains in it. You can pull everything up and see everything you need to see.
What's the cost of the software?
Well, for the modules we need is $5,500. Now, I don't know as far as all the rest of the modules. We'd have to, I don't want to start budgeting stuff for other departments because they might not be interested in it. That would be,
We can't talk about something. We interested in it. Everybody should be interested in it.
so that could be an option for the other departments if they want to do it.
And we didn't put it down for long-range planning, but that's his long-range plan. It's really digital. I want to make some notes here, just to y'all, concerning other things that are going on.
Should we finish this up first?
Yeah, I'm done with my part.
Anybody got questions? My apologies for interrupting.
Are you fine?
I told you about the HVAC collection and how much that's gone up, so you've got that handout now. We're meeting with SEDOT and their residence construction engineer tomorrow at 2 to talk about Casher Street. We'd like to meet again 1 week from today to go over everything else that hasn't been covered so far. That's Tuesday the 22nd. Does that work for everyone, or do we need to move it to another day?
Won't work for me.
How about Monday the 21st?
Monday I could do it.
Monday the 21st.
In the afternoon.
Do it same time, 6 o'clock, Monday the 21st.
Okay.
Everybody all right with that? And it would probably be
You
a
said the
long,
Monday, the 21st now, instead of the 22nd. Are we going to 22nd?
21st. Everybody good on that? No problem? All right, that's what we'll do, 6
I'm
p.m.
full up, but
on the 21st, 6 p.m. on the 21st. The audit's going to start June 11th with Webster Rogers. The Tyner Warehouse comes up again in front of Judge Stucks tomorrow. That's specifically about putting some type of lien on that property. So you want to attend that? It's probably about 4 o'clock, would you say?
I just texted Shanice literally 30 minutes ago. I'll let everybody know the first thing in the morning. She'll text me back. But I would assume it'll be the latter part of the day, yeah.
Got a notice from Lisa Thomas, our attorney in the 109 Law Street federal lawsuit. The people that are representing Flowers Ministries are asking for binding mediation. And I was told 2 months ago that it was a slam dunk, that it was finished because they hadn't made the improvements to the building like they promised they would. So we're now looking at a possible binding mediation meeting involving City of Darlington and Flowers Ministries and a mediator that would be picked. We'll just have to see how that goes. I don't We're talking about some dates earlier today, but no date has been settled for that yet.
What is that? What's the binding, whatever?
But all it means is that we can't come to an agreement. The judge wants us to try to work, the federal judge wants us to try to work Federal Judge Harwell through this. But if I go to that mediation or we send anybody from City of Darlington, all we're going to ask them to do, we don't really care what you use it for. You still got to bring the building up to code. And they've never brought the building up to code. We've given them list after list after list of improvements that they need to make internally and externally to 109 Law Street, and it's not been done. So from 2 years ago, that's not changed to today. No permits have been pulled. Nobody has been consulted as far as going in to look into the building. So nothing has happened on that, but I'm just letting you know that their side is asking for binding mediation. I don't know what the judge is going to rule on, but that's what they asked for today. One more note for the next budget meeting. We're looking at adding an employee for full-time beautification work. Full-time beautification work, which would be someone that would be responsible for our entranceways, our right-of-ways, our medians, working a little bit in the park, also making sure that we're planting right-of-way trees in different areas of town. I've already put something together and I'm negotiating something right now with the Garden Club to help us out with that on just a supervision standpoint that would possibly supervise that employee. Beautification is a very important thing, and I think we found a way to make it work. We'll show it to you next week.
Well, just two questions when you finish.
I'm finished.
Kevin, have you heard anything about our letter on the corner of Ward and Exchange?
Talk about Victor Webster.
Yeah.
I've had a conversation with him. He got me some receipts together. I don't think it goes to, and now the verbiage that we use is escaping me. It wasn't just improvements, but it was
Substantially complete?
No, it was the improvements that he would make, but it had to be make the property valuable, and I can't remember the exact. None of these, I think, are in line with that. I think he did some stuff, and I don't think it added any value to the property. So at this point, I think we're just going to proceed.
The other thing was, I heard, just roundabout, part of the problems that the Tyner family has is they really don't have the desire to put a lot of money into that warehouse property. I didn't know whether or not there was some way that if they wanted to donate it to the city, if we were in a position to take it and have to tear it down, or is it too expensive?
No, sir. That's a budget breaker for us. That's all of our demolition budget on one project if it's going to cost that. And I think Alex and I talked about that internally. I didn't do it. It's too many. It's just too much of a liability on our part. I don't see the benefit for us from a cost standpoint. I mean, it would be nice to have the property after everything's taken out. But then, yes, but then you've got the stormwater issue. Have y'all been around that street when it floods?
Yeah.
I live on that street.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Anybody got another
And
question?
that added value improvement, it disturbed me, I just had to say that. So.
Any other question?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
So I got one question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
One question. The vac truck or whatever it's called, are you gonna hire an employee to run that truck?
2.
You gonna have two?
Okay, make a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
A second, okay. All in favor? Mr. Kelvin?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you explain to Ms. Reed now about that project, about the pillow
See, there is no, I just don't see the point in it, really. I mean, if we gonna take this much time to go in the back and they're actually people that's selling it, and that's the 3 times that it's been sold that we know of, and it was, the sale is not questioned. It's just you want the
In a lot of
title.
times you gotta go back 40 years.
Right, okay, so if that's the case, why are we even